Good afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Darlene with Digital Photo Mentor, and happy Thanksgiving to our American viewers. I hope you can take some time out from your turkey dinner to join us today. I see Karen has to go to dinner shortly, so hopefully we can get one of your images. I'll do one of yours before you go. I think it's Sheila Green. Awesome. Welcome, Belgium. Are you new, Joe? If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We do this every week where I edit subscriber submitted images, and you'll be seeing some of that today. So if you are brand new here, put a number 1 in the chat just so we can welcome you. We've got some regulars: Stephanie, Marguerite, Danelle. Danelle sent me a ton of images this week, so thank you for that, in different categories. We've got a few other first time. Welcome by appointment 59. If you care to share your name with us, that would be great as well. So welcome to the newcomers. David, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. So I've got some really cool water images, and we're going to talk specifically about some camera settings for some of these things as well. And some of the images that you sent, I'm going to put into other categories, and save for another time. Welcome, Dennis. Thanks you for sharing that. So I'm going to hop over into, I'm in Luminar right now because I've got my featured image here, but I'm going to hop over to the actual category of water. And I'm going to pop over to Lightroom. So I've got all the images categorized by color, and I do that in Lightroom using the modules in the color coding. You'll notice that I've got flags. Oh, and I need to turn on my little pointer. Let me get that. Turn on my pointer. So I've used picks or flags. I've used color ratings. You can see yellow, green, blue, and also the number ratings. So that's one advantage that Lightroom has in terms of being able to tag or flag your images in different ways. In Luminar, we have a flag or no flag. That's it. Or a reject. Okay. So if you are using Lightroom and you want to know more about that, that's definitely something that's part of our course. If you have not got our Lightroom course, maybe share the link to the 2 free lessons, Rob, and they can check that out. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is actually talk about a few images that I'm not going to be editing today, but I wanted to mention a few things. So these ones here from Karen, and this one from Danelle, they're really cool images. I'm going to put them into abstract, ladies, because I think they're really cool, and we could do some fun stuff with those in more of an abstract category. So I'm just going to recategorize those. And then I wanted to talk about these ones here. Sheila had said in your form, let me see here. Yes. You had said in your form that you wanted to talk about better composition and how I would crop these. Right. So I want to talk quickly about these in terms of composition and not so much in terms of editing. So the 2 images that you sent, and I've got this up on the screen just so we can see the camera information and the camera settings. Okay. Full screen. Thank you. Oh, there we go. So in terms of composition, let me ask the viewers so far. Let me ask you guys, what do you think is the subject here? Where do you think Sheila wants us to look in this image? Let me just turn some of this stuff off. Yeah, we'll go more of a full screen. What do you think is the subject here? Okay. Where does your eye go? We can also do the upside down thing. Okay. So if we want to look at it upside down, where does your eye go? Okay. Tell me in the chat, what do you think you're looking at here? Stephanie says, I'm guessing the pond. But now when we look at upside down, do you see the pond, Stephanie? I don't see the pond at all. It just kind of disappears, right? Marty says the clouds, the person in the chair, the landscape is a nicer part to look at. Somebody said the person, Marguerite says the person in the chair. Sky, my eye goes to the man in the chair. Get rid of the people first. Okay. So can you see the challenge here, Sheila? Is there isn't a definitive subject. Okay. Because if the subject was clearly defined, we would go right to it. Okay. Is it the person lying in the sun over here? Is it the clouds? And our eye goes to the clouds because they're the brightest section of the image, right? Do you remember those four things? I'm going to find them again. Remember those four things that your eyes are drawn to. And when we look at these four things, brightness, sharpness, color, and contrast, well, brightness is definitely the sky. Contrast is the person in the chair, right? That's why your eye is going there. The pond is kind of lost because it's dark, okay? There's no contrast. There's nothing there to grab our attention, okay? So when you're doing the actual photographing of a scene, consider what it is that you want us to see. So Sheila, if you give us some indication of what did you want to highlight here, okay? Because I kind of think it was probably this person lying in the sun, but again, it's not super clear. What I like about the image here and what's working is there's lots of sort of geometric geometric shapes, right? There's the shape of the grass, there's the shape of the edge of the pond here, and then even the trees. Okay, so the trees are round and the clouds are round, so there's this kind of really neat opposing shapes going on. So how I would crop this really depends on what you want to bring up as a subject. Okay, because if we want this person to be the subject, I might do something. Let's just crop it off aspect ratio. I might do something like that. Okay, keep the geometric shapes. That's a totally different picture, right? Now your eye goes to a bit more of the subject and this person here. Okay, so we've kept the shapes and eliminated the part on the right, because the part on the right here, it's really heavy over here. So there's something called visual mass. If you could link to the article, please, Rob, on visual mass, that would be helpful. Right. So this area here, lots of darkness. Your eye goes here because of the contrast between the dark and the light. Right. So it's keeping your eye away from this area of the geometric shapes. Okay, which is what she said. So let me go back here for your answer. The angles and the shapes. Okay. So that's what I saw as well. So to bring that out more, I would actually get rid of most of this bit. So don't keep the lock on the crop aspect ratio. Bring the crop in. Let's see what happens if we go just to the edge of this tree. So we're keeping this guy in. Okay. That's not bad. I'm going to come in a little bit from the bottom and maybe a little bit from the top as well, just to simplify. I don't want to cut into that cloud. Okay. So something like that is possibly how I would crop this one. My eye still competes between these two guys or people, right? But now I'm sort of following the lines of these geographic shapes, okay? And then I would do just some basic editing to darken the edge and bring the highlights down. And that's about it. Okay? So cropping, something like that. I hope that helps, Sheila. And the other one that you mentioned in terms of cropping as well and composition, my computer is going slowly again today. I think it's when we're doing these local recordings, Rob. In terms of cropping on this one, again, really think about when you're taking the photo, what is the subject? What is it you want us to look at? Is it the bridge? Okay. If it's the bridge, because we've got half of the scene with water and half with sky, and the bridge is very small in the scene. Okay. So if the bridge is your subject, I would actually do something more like this. Okay, so your picture is more horizontal than vertical, right? Now look how big the bridge is. You see the boats and you see the activity going underneath the bridge, right? Looks like there's even, is that a helicopter? Yeah, a helicopter up there. Okay. So consider when you're photographing these kinds of things. Okay. Come on, there we go. So what lens? This was a 18 to 55 mil lens at 55. So you didn't have any more zoom on this lens, but do you have another lens that you could zoom in farther? Because this is really your shot here, and we're cutting off about 2/3 of your image to get this one. Okay. I noticed that everybody's talking about geography in the in the chat. So no cows today, just geography. Let's see. So Danelle, yes, take a look at where we are. We are in Alberta. So we are in the west, but not all the way west. Okay. So I hope that helps with some composition, Sheila, in terms of think about what is the subject, what do you want us to see, and how can you compose your image in such a way to make it more stand out more. Okay. So we start with those. Okay. Then let's see. My next thing I wanted to show is this one real quick of Danelle's, because I'm going to move it into a different category as well, called Sky, because you've got these amazing, amazing fluffy clouds, right? So look at this. I just did a really quick brighten on this one, right? Well, my computer is running slow. So there's the before and after, just brightened it, that's all. Because this image, Danelle, would be great as a sky replacement. So if you crop in, and you could even use, you're using Lightroom, so getting rid of the bottom part might be trickier. You'd have to go to Photoshop to get rid of if you wanted to fill in more sky, but you could literally just crop it. Let's make sure it's straight first. So we can literally, that still doesn't look straight, does it? I'm going to do angle and just place it on the horizon and then bring it up. Still doesn't look straight. I'm going to do angle one more time. I want to make sure I get it right on the horizon. There we go. So then I'm cropping to just above. So there is a nice sky replacement for you to know. So what I did here was I lowered the contrast, so bring the shadows up so that the bottom of those clouds aren't so dark, okay? And you want to just make sure that your lens correction is on, right? Because it also fixes some of the issues on the edges of the image, okay? And you'll notice how it's kind of all bunched up here, so I definitely want to make sure I'm not clipping anything. Keep the detail in the sky. See that? There we go. Keep the detail. And keep the contrast a little bit lower when you're dealing with sky replacement images, because you can always boost the contrast later once you add it to the new image, but it's harder to take the contrast away, especially if you've got clipping. So you want to make sure you've got full detail in these nice white clouds, okay? So I'm using the J key, and I'm also using the Alt Option key to make sure that these whites are not clipping. Okay, so keep it a little bit on the flatter side. I also punched up a little bit of texture. Okay, you don't want to go too far. You don't want to make it have artifacts. And the same thing with clarity. I went very gentle, so about 12 on each. So I would say do a good job cropping that one, straightening it, and put that into your sky replacement. So I'm going to put that one in sky, and we can actually talk about that because we could use it. So we could export that and then use it as a sky. Okay. Okay. Now, these are the ones that I want to work on today. Iconic places coming up. Yes. No. Oh, Holly's in the house. So yeah, no cows today or heifers or any of those things. Okay. The sky was done now, so part of an exposure bracketing set. You don't really need to bracket there though, okay? Because when do you need to bracket? If you could please share that article, Rob, as to HDR, when to HDR. You only need to bracket when the image in question, let me come back over here, when it doesn't fit within the histogram, okay? So you could see that it's fitting, it fits here just fine, okay? So there's nothing clipping on either end. When you need to bracket is when you have super, super high contrast. So let me just go to sunsets for a minute. My mouse is lagging. So for example, let's see. If you want to have detail in the foreground and in the background or in the sky of a sunset like this is when you would need to bracket because the foreground is super dark. Okay. So unless you have the absolute, bright sun in your sky, right? This one bracketing would work as well. Okay. But then again, this is a moving subject. So bracketing is tricky. Karen, I also put these into the sunset category instead of water today. So I moved a few others around because I think these are great sunsets. We can do something really fun with these. Okay. And I moved a few others into birds as well. Okay. So what I did do, and I want to start with this one because this is the image that I ended up using for the featured image this week. And my program is not loading it. Come on, Lightroom. There we go. So this is the one that I edited of Karen. So I'm just going to run through a quick, what did I do on this one? Okay, so that's the original. And this was edited in Lightroom. And what I did was my usual. I didn't even adjust the camera profile. We could take a look at that and see if there's anything better. Right? Landscape gives us even more color. Portrait tends to be flatter. Right? Neutral, flatter. Standard, and then of course vivid gives us the most color. Okay, so Adobe Color in this case was pretty good. If we want a bit more punch, we could go with landscape. Okay, then I did my shift double click, and I didn't actually go really far with the blacks because if I go farther to get some clipping, it just didn't look good at all. I wanted to keep it a bit softer looking, right? Like so. And then just dealt with the whites to brighten them. So I did a shift double click on the whites and then brought the highlights down a little bit, increased the texture and the clarity. And then I did do a couple of masks. Okay, so the first mask I did was on the bottom here, just to darken the sand. Okay, so I used exposure and darkened the highlights. The second mask I did is in the middle. Okay, so I did two linear gradients, right? One up here and one down here. And then I inverted it, right? So I selected the linear gradients to do the outside, and then I inverted it just to get the water, okay? I'm going to undo this one and show you how I did that, all right? So let me just delete this one. Okay, so to select just the water, I could do that a few different ways. But what I did was linear gradient, and I did one on the bottom. Okay, so up to the edge of the water, okay, like so. And I'm not doing a super big fade. Then I added another linear gradient to the top. Okay, so I just want the frothy part of the water. So now you can see I've got the opposite of what I want selected. So then I go up to the top and it shows invert, just like that. Okay, so now it is selecting just the water. And I can refine it by moving these a little bit. And what I did here was I increased the clarity and the texture because I wanted this foam to have more texture. I wanted it to come out. Okay, I can see now that it's actually got a little bit of noise, so I'm going to dial the noise down a little bit. Okay, so see what that's doing? Just adding some texture into the water. I could even do dehaze as well, but dehaze, you see how dehaze really increases the contrast? And I don't want to do that so much. Okay, so just bringing out some texture. Another way that I could darken the sand, does anybody know? We could darken and affect the water and the sand separately, okay? Using the new color mixer. Oh, I did do that. Haha. So let me turn that off, okay? So see the sand? That's the original color. That's what I did. Okay, so I selected the sand color and then it modified it. Then I selected the water. As you can see, if I click this box, visualize. So the water is selected there. The sand is selected there. Then I did another one, which is not really selecting anything. So it doesn't seem that that one's doing anything. Huh, that's interesting. There we go. So I selected that one. Like so. So together I made 3 different points. And this is the power of this new tool, this point color, as opposed to the color mixer, right? Because with color mixer, I could darken the sand, right? But I don't have control over finite sort of how it selects the sand, right? Same thing with the water. I could brighten the water or darken it, right? But I don't have control over which kinds of blue it's affecting. So you can get just more specific and really pinpoint your colors. Good question. Okay, so Danelle says, between texture and clarity, which do you use more and why? It depends on the subject. I tend to keep clarity a little bit lower, but let's zoom into 100% here. Okay, so maybe 60%. Okay, so I'm going to undo the texture and the clarity. So let's see the difference, okay? When we go 100% clarity, it's looking for edges. So where there are edges of things, like between the water and the sand, it's increasing the contrast there, okay? So you see what clarity does? Opposite clarity just makes a blurry mess, right? So clarity, see how it's increasing the contrast? If we look up here, right, see how it increases contrast versus texture that is more of, it picks up individual ripples. So it's looking more at like the sand. See that? Less contrast. If we look at the whole scene, okay, that's texture. We don't see that sort of crunchiness happening. That's clarity. This is maybe not the best example because this one doesn't have a lot of contrast. Let me find another example here. Let's see. This might be a good example. I'm just going to do a quick, almost never do this, but I'm just going to do a quick auto adjust here and see what it does for brightness. Okay. So it always adds vibrance and saturation, which I never do. Okay, so what I want to do is let's take a look at the difference between clarity and texture here. Okay, so there's clarity. Okay, can you see how the whites got whiter and it added texture through contrast? Okay, see the difference? Okay, now let's look at texture. It's really similar, but you don't get that same contrast. Let's look at the grass. Right, it's bringing out exactly that texture. This is more contrast. Okay, so texture is one that was a newer tool that allowed you to bring out texture without contrast. So it looks at more of the fine points, whereas clarity looks for the edges. Yes, texture is best for fine detail. Exactly, exactly. Awesome. Okay, great question. Okay, so that's what I did with Karen's image. Okay, so let me do another one. Is Marty here? Marty's here, isn't he? I think I saw Marty. Yes, Marty's here. Okay, so I want to look at this one because Marty sent a couple of images. and they were both really cool. But this one, I think, was the one you were asking about, right? Because you asked about improving the composition, right? The other one you asked about was how to get rid of distractions and handle dynamic range. So I'm going to come back here again. This is the other image you sent, Marty. So I'm assuming this is the one you were asking about, the distractions and dynamic range. Yes. Okay. So this one here, the trick here is to photograph this subject at a different time of day. Okay, so that's how you handle the dynamic range, as you come back when it's not so bright. Because the other thing is you can't get a slow enough exposure if you want that silky, silky water. Okay, or you can use a neutral density filter, but the neutral density filter will allow you to do a longer exposure, but it doesn't change the contrast. Okay, because the issue here is the contrast between the white water and the dark shadows, right? So we can start by looking at some of these camera profiles. Okay, I find that standard usually is a little bit flatter. Yeah, we're not getting a whole lot of difference here. So I'm going to go with standard, right? Then we're just going to pull the highlights down, the shadows up, and then I'll bring the whole exposure up. You can see that there is detail there, right? But in order to get it, you're going to have to do, some serious HDR manipulation to pull up the shadows. And honestly, you don't need detail in here. I would work on detail in the water because that's where you want the eye to go. Okay. And for sure, I would add some clarity and texture here, but I don't want to add it around the edges. Okay. Not so much. So I would just do a little bit, do an edge vignette. Right. Making sure. So I bring the exposure up and then I'm checking my highlights again. See that? Make sure they're not clipping. We can also try a custom white balance. Okay. So I clicked on the water, made it a little bit pink for my liking, but warmed it up a little bit. Okay. Now what I would do is I want to select the water. Okay. So with a mask. So how are we going to do that? What's the best way to do that? I could use a radial gradient, or we could try luminance range because the water is the brightest thing, right? Okay, so I'm just going to drag a little box there. You can see how it's selected pretty well, the water, right? I can adjust it this way, like so. Now it's going to affect these rocks up here, okay? So I don't want these rocks. So I could also say, well, I want to intersect it. Intersect, okay? So intersect is different than add. Intersect means I want it to look for things that are this and this, okay? So intersect the mask with, and I'm going to do a radial gradient. So now I'm just going to drag an oval. I don't need to feather it. I'm going to just select this area of the water. Okay. I need to make it a little bigger. There we go. So you can see where my oval is, okay? So now it's intersecting, meaning it is selecting anything that is inside that circle and inside that brightness range that I selected. Okay. So now I just have the water pretty much. Okay. Now I can add some clarity. See what that does? Or we want to minus some clarity. If you want to make the water smoother, we can actually go the other way and bring the texture down. And look, now we've got smoother water. Let's check the highlights, bring that down a little bit. But look what that's doing, making our water a little bit more smooth. Okay, so you didn't get the shutter speed that you wanted, right? So if we want to increase the blurriness, we've just selected the water, and I've done that with minus texture and minus clarity. Okay. Did I apply a vignette? Yes, I did. Might even do a strong edge vignette, something like that. Okay, so you've got a high dynamic range. And in terms of dealing with the distractions, right, this here, this stick here, this branch here, those are things that you could try to get rid of with the cloning tool here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to zoom in, not rotate. We could try the cloning tool here, but you'd probably have better luck taking this to Photoshop, right? And this is where you could use, well, it did not a bad job actually. So we could probably just do this little by little and get rid of it. Let's just see how Lightroom does little by little here. It's not doing so bad. Okay, so I find that the Lightroom cloning tool is more limited, right? You don't have a lot of stuff to work with here, but it's actually doing a pretty good job. So don't try, the trick is don't try to do the whole thing at once. Okay, I'm doing a small section at once. Let's try the whole one here. And then make sure you're zoomed in, okay? Oop. I missed a bit of it. Okay, that's not bad. I'm still missing a part of it, so I'm gonna do that one again. I'll just get a little bit more of it. There we go. So see, that's not bad, right? And then if we want, we can get rid of this one as well. Just do it little by little. Something like that. And I'm not going to do the whole one here, but you can keep working on this one the same way. Okay, so start at the end and just do a little bit at a time, like this. And you could see that it's doing a pretty good job and it's believable, right? So just work it slowly, right? Maybe I'll do one more branch. Okay, so you can get rid of that whole thing slowly. It would probably be much faster in Photoshop, okay? But if you're not familiar with Photoshop, just keep going. You were on a hike with the family. This is the only time you had while on vacation. So exactly, that's you know, the nature of the beast, right? When you're traveling. So if you don't have that opportunity, then you got to work with what you got. So work on lowering the contrast, but not completely, right? The other thing that I might do now that I've got the water selected is duplicate it and invert it. Okay, so now I'm going to select everything else. Okay, see that? And I'm actually going to, let's just see, I'm going to say select subject and see what it thinks is the subject. Okay, so I minus a little bit more of the water. Okay, and I might take it a little further and do a little bit less. Let's do a subtract radial gradient. Okay, once again, I don't want any of the water selected, so something like that. Okay, now I'm going to actually lower the clarity a bit. Okay, lower the contrast. And I'm just bringing the attention away from the edges. Okay, can you see that? So by lowering the texture, see how the rocks stand out more with more texture? I'm lowering the texture on the rocks. Okay, there's before and after. See what it's doing to the rocks. Okay, so these tools are really powerful for masking. Talk through what I do first. Okay. That's great, Neil. I'm glad you're engrossed in what I'm saying. So one thing I want to mention while I'm on the screen here, a couple of things coming up. Rob, if you could please share the link to the webinar, the regular one, not for subscribers. If you are one of our email subscribers, we have a webinar coming up on Friday, so that's 5 days from now. Anybody is welcome to attend. You don't have to be a subscriber. But if you are a subscriber, there is a special offer in your inbox to get the webinar at a discount. So if you'd like to join us, it's $9 webinar, and that is on photography etiquette. So it's about ethics and morals and how to be a ethical and moral and photographer with good etiquette, meaning leave a good name for all photographers behind you. Okay, so what are the things that you need to think about and address to be an ethical photographer? Stephanie's all signed up. Awesome. I did this talk for a camera club a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, hey, well, maybe everybody else would like to see this as well. So that's what we're doing. So the link to the webinar is in the chat, and we'll put it in the description below the video if you're watching this replay. So the webinar will be recorded, but you have to be registered to see it, okay, and get the replay. So if you can't come, on Friday live, as long as you're signed up, you will get the replay and have access to the replay. Thanks, Danelle. I was quite happy with the title myself. Capturing with Conscience, yes. Okay, so hopefully that helps Marty with his contrast issue. And I want to just address this one as well, because you asked about cropping. So I'm trying to get everybody's questions in this week and answer the questions that you had specifically. So in terms of Marty's, let me put his image back on the screen here. So Marty said, interesting approach. When I edited, I tried to bring out more detail in the rocks. I can see where this creates uncertainty about the subject. Right. So remember those 4 things, Marty? Like your eye is drawn to contrast and detail, right? So the more contrast and the more detail the rocks have, your eye will be drawn to the edges of the picture and not to the water, right? So your eye goes to the water because it's bright, but then if your eye goes to the rocks because they're contrasty and sharp with lots of detail, your eye just goes all over the place. So that's why I did what I did there, right? So taking the eye away from the rocks and making it more of a framing tool. So the rocks just frame the water, right? And great composition here. You know, you've got a really nice diagonal line of the water flowing through. And this one, you had asked about composition, I believe. So I want to get to as many images as I can today. So that's why I'm not doing full edits on everybody's today. We're kind of doing some tips here and there. Okay, so this one, here's another one that I'm going to give you a tip on camera stuff as well, because this one here was taken at 100th of a second at f11. Okay, so what I would have done with this one is gone the opposite way and gone a faster shutter speed. So I would have opened up that lens to f4 or whatever is the maximum. You're at 22 millimeters, so you've got room to open your lens here on this lens. Open that up to like f4, and your shutter speed is going to be a lot faster. Okay, so that's f8, 5, 6, 3 stops. So that goes 204. Your shutter speed will be closer to 1,000th of a second. And then if you increase your ISO, you can go even faster. Okay, so you can get up to a 4,000th of a second here really easily just by changing your camera settings. And then you'd have more of the water like absolutely frozen in midair. And this is the kind of subject where I actually like experimenting, right? So I would have done some with a slower shutter speed, even than 100th, okay? So increase to f22, like you did with the water flowing, get a slower shutter speed and get more blur, and then try the opposite direction. Oh, see you, Karen. I'm sorry, I forgot. We need to get to your images. I will talk about that a little later, but I did do the one of yours earlier of the beach. So happy Thanksgiving. Take care. Okay, so when you are photographing a scene like this, experiment at both ends of the spectrum, okay? Because sometimes frozen water might be cool, and other times blurry water, okay? So in terms of composition on this one, okay, what I would do, and I'm just going to do a really quick edit here just to, let's do auto. I rarely use auto. See, it increased the contrast, and it almost always brings up the vibrance, which I dislike enormously. So I usually don't use that, right? Let's bring up some clarity, and we could bring up the texture in the water with texture. See that? Look at that. Clarity as well. So both of those work great to bring out that water. So composition here, It looks like it's a little bit crooked, so I would try and straighten it, but I don't want to lose too much of that splash. And I don't want to lose too much of these stuff on the side. And then take a look again at visual mesh. So the bottom third of the image, look at where the thirds are, is all of this empty beach and a rock. And there's really nothing interesting here. So get rid of it. I would almost come always to the top of that rock, like so. Okay, because your scene is really up here. So your interesting part of your scene is that bench and a splash. Now, how great would this picture been if somebody was sitting there? You should have done a self-timer, Marty. Go do a self-timer, run in, get yourself in with the splash, you know, maybe going like, ah, I'm gonna get all wet. And maybe you would get wet, but it might be a fun picture. So that's kind of what I would do. It still feels crooked, but I don't want to lose because I'm trying to get those buildings. I'm looking at the verticals of the buildings. That tells me that it's not straight. So I'm looking at the edge of the building there, right? And let's darken it overall. Feels a little bit yellow. Right? So just something like that, right? Bring the highlights down, bring the clarity and the texture up, and you get a lot more punch in that water. But compositionally, I would definitely come off the bottom. And there's a lot of empty white, almost white, blue sky as well. So maybe we can even, you know, come in on this side. And I'm just experimenting here. So let's just see what that looks like. I actually don't mind that because the bench kind of balances here and you've got this diagonal line now and less blue sky. You could try a sky replacement on this one, but I think it might be tricky because of the water to get it to blend. But you could try a sky replacement. Actually, let's give that a go. I'm just going to do a edge vignette. That looks like it's a little too much vignette. Let's go with highlight priority. See how this corner is darker? That leads me to think that it's a lens correction issue. Okay. And the vignette here. Okay, so de-vignette. Right, de-vignette the edges. I'm working on that, getting the edges smooth. Okay, so what's happening is under lens corrections, you want to apply the camera profile, right? Because I'm looking at, I want to make sure the edges and the corners are the same brightness, okay? Because the corners are darker, okay? So a lot of lenses tend to do that. Okay, so see how I want to get it even. See how the edge is a little bit darker and distorted. Now I can apply the overall. Something like that. Still a little too dark. Okay, let's try a sky replacement. I'm actually really curious. I'm probably going to retouch these birds out just because they're kind of distracting. So I'm going to check this to Luminar, and I'm just going to go direct just for the purposes of speed. And I just want to see if we can do a sky replacement. You can take it to Photoshop as well, but let's give this one. No, the link that we gave here does not have a link for email subscribers because you have to be a subscriber to get it. So check your email, Robert. If you are not a subscriber, you can sign up and maybe give them a link to our website where they can sign up if they are not an email subscriber, please, Rob. And I'm going to be sending out another reminder about the webinar in a couple of days. So you will get the link for subscribers as well. Or if you are subscribed, check your inbox because you would have received it already. Okay, now it's opened another version of Luminar for me. So I'm just going to move this one over. And let's go straight to sky replacement. I'm really curious how this one's going to handle this image. Okay, so I think I want something with some clouds, but I'm going to check my sky pack. Number one, let's see if I've got something. I don't think I have anything that matches. Let's try blue sky, because some of these have some gentle clouds. And let's just see how well it does. I want something that's going to blend well with the cloud, with the water, but not these big fluffy ones. I want something a little bit more subtle. Still waiting for it to pop the sky in there. Come on, anytime now. There it is. Okay, see, that's not bad. But you see the difference with having something there as opposed to just that straight blue sky? So far that one is actually doing not so bad. Let's see. See, these cotton candy skies are a little too much. They're a little over the top. I find a lot of these skies that are available, and I've gotten skies from, you know, the marketplace and various other ones. Marshmallow sky. So I think if I try one of these, it's going to be too much, and it's going to compete. Yeah, see, it competes now with the water. So we want something there, but not too much. Yeah, these are too much. Too much texture. Okay. What's a peaceful sky look like? Ah, okay. So this is a little better. See how these are a little bit softer? Okay, so that's not bad. It's giving us a little bit of magenta. Something like that. This is really purple, however. Power of nature. These are going to be storms. Silky smooth skies. Okay. Let's try one of these. I think the first one I had was probably still the best one. I'm going to go back up here to the one I had first and just go back here. Yeah, I like this one the best. So it's actually blending quite well, right? Because we can't really, it's done a really good job here, right? Let's just do this. Look at that. It's done a super fantastic job of getting in behind the water. I am really impressed, like really impressed. I'm just going to darken the sky a little bit. We can make it a little bluer. That's pretty nice, right? Let's just see about orientation, if we want to flip it. That's not bad. I kind of like that. It almost mirrors the shape of the clouds and the water. I kind of like that. So look at what that's doing. And now while we're in here, we could literally just go to Enhance AI, because it's got the sky enhancer, right? We can darken that. Yeah, that gives us way too much. This one I find you have to be really subtle with and be careful with, right? Or it goes too far. How's that? I'm inclined to try a LUT on this one as well. And I'm going to try a blue and orange one, or a blue one, because I've got quite a few. Where is it? I've got teal and orange. Where's my blue ones? Blue ones. Here we go. So we could try some blue ones. Maybe not so much. Let's try teal and blue. Teal and orange. The first one was kind of interesting. Gives you a completely different look, right? We could go aged. It's kind of interesting. Look at that. That's kind of neat, actually. Takes out some of the yellow. Just subtle. So there's our before and after. See how just changing that sky makes a big difference? And now it's going to bring us back to Lightroom, and there's the new image. So let's take a look at the full before. I'm going to copy this. So if you want to make a full before, I'm making a virtual copy in Lightroom, which is Command or Control apostrophe. And then I'm going to reset it. Okay, so it's going to reset all the editing, all the cropping, everything. So now we can see the progression. Okay, so we went from the original, uncropped, unedited, to Lightroom version, cropped and edited, to Luminar. See the difference with the sky? I think it makes a big difference. Just having that little bit of texture in the sky, so it's not just blank. Okay, we're doing good here. Let's keep moving along. All right, what else was I going to show you? Okay, I brought these ones up because these are a few that I cannot edit because they are JPEGs. Okay, so Susan sent these previously, these two, and they're really nice images, but there's not a lot I can do because they're already edited and they're quite small. This is actually the full-size image, so it's only 1500 pixels. Okay, so I need the full size, full raw images to edit, right? Because if I try and edit this one, and I'm going to show you on this one and on the other one, if we try and edit a JPEG, okay, first of all, we don't get the camera profiles and we don't get the presets under the white balance. Okay, so if we look at profiles, see there is none for camera. Okay, we don't get that. But if I bring these highlights down, you see the highlights are clipping. So if I bring these highlights down and try and fix the sky, this is what happens. We get what's called banding. Okay, can you see that? And that is because it's a JPEG and there just isn't detail there. Okay, and the same thing if we try and do this one. So this is also a JPEG sent by Susan. Okay, so again, same thing. Don't have the camera profiles, don't have the white balance options. And if I bring the highlights down and I darken the whole picture, okay, now you can start to see we don't have the same latitude and the shadows either. And if I bring the shadows up, you'll start to get a lot of grain in the shadows. Okay, you'll start to get grain in this area, but look at the sky. Okay, can you see that? This is what's called banding and pixelation. Can you see the difference there? You can actually see the pixels, and that's because it's a JPEG. Okay, and then the color starts to go really wonky. Okay, so I think this one is full size. No, it's 1600 as well. So when you're sending me your images, do make sure that you send full raw files. Same thing with this one. I think it's a really cool image that Mark sent quite a while ago. And I've tried to edit this one and it ends up just looking really muddy because if we darken it, oh, my mouse is not responding. It just turns into sort of gray mud. Okay, so there's just not a lot of detail. Okay. So these ones, unfortunately, I cannot work on. Okay. All right. Now let's go and look at a couple in Luminar and do some full Luminar edits. Okay, so Robert sent me this one and this one. So you sent me a couple of different ones, and they both have interesting reflections. And I kind of like this one with the building because there's some neat stuff happening in here. So let's hop over here. Okay, and we could also try a sky replacement on the other one or this one too. Okay, so again, the sky is just blank. Okay, you like the first sky. You cannot get a good link. Send me an email, Robert. I'm not sure what that means, but send me an email and I can send you the link directly. Okay. Okay. The other thing I was going to tell you about before I start this one is that there is a sale for Luminar going on right now. If you do not own Luminar and you would like to, or you'd like to upgrade to the Pro package, there is a Black Friday sale going on right now till tomorrow, actually. So if you could please share the link to that, Rob, ads that you put on the side, or the little image that we put on our website, grab that from Impact. There should be a link to the current, or check the email from Yasya. There should be a link to the current promotion for us to share with everybody. And along with that, also on Friday, Friday's our webinar, but also we are going to be having a sale as well. So we're not doing Black Friday. We're doing something different. We're not doing Black Friday, and we're not doing a Christmas sale. We're going to do a December sale. So every week in December, starting next Friday, which is the 1st, we're going to have a different course of ours on sale, a different set of products. So if you want to get in on those, do make sure you're signed up to our email list, because we're going to have a different promotion every week. Okay. Great question, Danelle. Anytime you sign up to get any of our free items, you will get signed up to our email list. And I think you're already on it anyways. If you're not, just pick anything on the freebies page, sign up for it, and you'll get delivery of that thing, and you'll be added to our email list. Okay. You do need to make sure that you confirm it if you're not on the list. So you'll get an email that says, please confirm. You have to click that to confirm before we can send you anything. And that just has to do with the legalities of avoiding spam emails and so on. Okay. Good question. Okay. So let's work on this picture of Roberts. Oh, okay. Oh, my back. Thanks so much, Danelle. That's awesome. Rob does the same kinds of questions, don't you, Rob? He already knows the answer, but he asks it for other people's benefit. Okay, so we could do a preset on here, but let's just hop into the tools, because I have some ideas as to what I want to do with this one. Before I do anything, I want to straighten it because it's kind of crooked. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to choose horizon alignment. Okay, and you see what it did? It's made these verticals straight, which is what I was looking for. Right, and I'm going to, yeah, let's go about like there. So it's a good composition. I don't want to take anything off the bottom. I could come in maybe a little bit, but I want to keep, let's go something like that. I want to keep these floaty things in the water, and I like the trees kind of on the corner, so I don't want to lose that, right? So let's go with that, but straighter is better. Okay, so I wanted to keep the trees on the corner here to match the building going off the side. So they kind of mirror each other, right? They've got these arch up into the corner, and the same thing down here. So our corners are kind of all the same, okay? Okay, next thing you want to do in Luminar is to do your camera raw, develop, right? And this is where you'll find the camera profiles. Ooh, look at that. Landscape. I kind of like portrait, actually. So if you move your mouse over, you can see the difference. It really brings those floaty things out. Portrait, they're a little bit contrasty. So let's go with, I like faithful. Okay, so I'm going to go with faithful, and then we're still going to adjust all the sliders. Okay, we can see on the histogram, if we turn on the clipping warnings, J on the keyboard, right? If you go to that freebies page, there's a Luminar Neo keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. You can sign up for that. So I brought the highlights down and then the exposure down. Okay, so I want to darken the whole thing overall because the colors will be a little more intense. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm not clipping any highlights. So that's good. So I brought it down just enough to get rid of that. And we can also check the curves, right, if we need to go further. But this one spreads across the histogram nicely. So I'm just going to add a little more black and then bring the shadows up a bit. Okay, so see how it's picking up this area of detail? So when I bring the shadows up, then I bring the blacks down again. So it's that dance. And if we look at what it's doing, right, it's intensifying all those colors. And then maybe increase the exposure a little bit. So still dancing. Okay. I want to make sure that the chromatic aberration is fixed, and we can zoom in here to see if there is any. Where we would look is around the edges of things. maybe ever so slightly. So I'm going to just check it off and defringe as well. And, you know, distortion correction has to do with lens distortion and perspective. Okay, so if I click that one, let's see if it does anything. I kind of preferred it the other way without that correction. Right? And transform allows us to correct those perspective distortions of buildings. So let's see what it does if I just click the auto button. Did it do anything? I don't think it did anything. Oh, maybe ever so slightly. Okay, so if I want to do it manually, there we go. So what I'm looking at is, you see how these verticals aren't perfectly vertical on the edge of the picture? Okay, so just by pushing this out a little bit, now I can make it perfectly straight. Great. It was so close. So close. Looking at the reflection too, actually. That looks pretty good. Okay, we haven't looked at color yet. How's our color? Okay, so as shot, now we have all these options, right? The pull down menu is the same when you shoot raw as on your camera. Ooh, daylight's really green. No, no, no. Let's go back here. I'm just going to dial the magenta down a little bit. Not too much. Okay, so here's our before and after. It's still a little green. That looks pretty good. And we've only just done develop and cropping. Okay. After doing that, I like to check enhance. I'm not going to go too far with this one. It does a nice job of picking up detail in the shadows, but remember, it kind of tends to go too far real quick. So I like to keep this one under 20 or 30 and just keep it subtle. Okay, so it's just picking up those shadows a little bit more, maybe even lower, 15. And sky enhancer, be careful of this one, because when you take it up high, you'll end up with this halo. Okay, can you see how the sky is darker in the middle and then lighter around the edges of the objects? That's called a halo, and you don't want that. Okay, so if you use this one, again, use it really, really sparingly. Okay, really, really sparingly. Let's see. This little white thing on the edge here is bugging me, so we could deal with that a few different ways. I do want to do a sky replacement because I want to see if we can pick up some additional things in the water here. So it looks like there's clouds in the water. Oh, it looks like there's maybe, are you shooting this one through glass, Robert? Because I see there's like a reflection of something here. So I'm going to try, let's try one of those similar skies that we just did on the other image and see if this one works here as well. Tell me if it was taken through glass, Robert. Halos are for angels. Yes. Yes, halos in photography are considered a bad thing. You want to avoid them. That's one of the 7 deadly editing sins. Actually, that's a video you could share, Rob. Editing sins. Yeah, see, the sky works well in here as also. Let's try something a little fluffier. Let's try something a little more dramatic. Let's try these. Where is it? Dramatic. Cotton candy. These are too crazy colorful. Too crazy colorful. Moody skies. Let's try one of these. So see what I mean? This one here is, these are ones that have got a lot of contrast in the sky. And when I add it, I can't fix it, right? So that's why when you're doing your own skies, keep the contrast a bit lower, right? Because you can always add it. It's harder to take it away. I don't mind this one. Let's try, oh, what's a marshmallow sky? Ooh, interesting. Okay, let's do one like that. Okay, so let's check the orientation. I want to make sure that the horizon is down far enough. See how the reflection is picking up down here, right? And we can increase that as well. We can change the placement of it. want a little bit more to the left. There we go. Something like that. Okay, so see how it's fairly mimicking? Let's do reflection. I'm going to increase it a little bit more. And when you do water blur, right? See the water, it looks like it's moving then, right? Like so. I'm trying to sort of overwrite this reflection there. Okay. Like so. And then let's darken the sky a little bit more. Make it a little bluer. Actually, we'll go the other way. Great. If I want to defocus the sky, you can do that as well. But the trees back here look pretty sharp, so I think the sky would be sharp as well. Okay, so that's not too bad. I'm going to add a quick vignette on here just to darken the edges. So again, my trick is turn the feather down so you can see the size and the shape. We cropped it or tilted it, corrected the tilt, so we need to make sure I bring the size down. Something like that. So there's our before and after. Okay. I still find that there's a reflection of something here, and I can't help but think it's taken through glass. So I'm going to see if we can solve that with the erase tool. And this one might actually be a great option for Gen Erase, but let's see what the regular erase tool can do. Okay, so if I just draw along this line here, I find that I like to try the general erase tool and the cloning tool before I go over to Gen Erase, because you'll get a new image when you do Gen Erase. It creates a new TIFF, which, I may or may not want. But I'm just trying to get rid of the edge. That didn't blend so well, did it? Not so much. Here, let me just get off the screen here so you can see what it's doing. Yeah, so you could see the erasing. Too bad it's not working so great. So I'm going to try the cloning tool instead, right? So I'm going to go about 30% strength, 37. And let's get a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm just going to clone from slightly above it. Like so. See how that lightens that line? And then I'm going to go down here and clone from below it. And then I'm going to go from here for the side, from here to the side. So I'm just getting rid of that dark line to minimize that reflection. So I'm constantly changing the cloning source. I have my finger on the Alt Option key. Right? So now I'm going to go this way to get rid of that edge. And this way, so both ways. Okay. Didn't like that last one. So there's still a little bit of a square edge here. I want to dial the strength down a little bit, and I'm just going to go little by little to try and minimize this edge here. Okay, so you can see what that's doing. See how that reflection there? Just cloned it out. Okay, so try the erase tool. Didn't work as well. Tried the clone tool. Did a better job. Great. So straighten the verticals. So we straightened the verticals here. We did a sky replacement and fixed the issue with the reflection. That was my guess, Robert. Yeah, that was my guess, actually. Because you're so much over the water. I was kind of assuming so, but I definitely picked it up with that reflection. So see what you could do to minimize the reflection and see what you can come up with for this one, right? So that's kind of how I would edit it. Now, another thing we could do is change up the sky replacement, because I'm actually going to be doing a video on this today. I'm going to make a video today, but we could change day into night, right? So let's just see what happens if we choose a nighttime sky. So I've got several night skies in my number 2 sky pack. If you could share a link to this one, Rob. It is one of the things. We will have some sky packs and some of our packs on sale as well. But look what happens if we switch out to a night sky. It's kind of dramatic, right? These are kind of neat. So think outside the box, right? So even though you took it in the daytime, using the relighting tools and sliders, right? We could even go with a some aurora if you want to add some aurora. That's in the sky pack as well, right? I like that first one that I grabbed though. Oh, it was this one, I think. Yeah, I like this first one, and I'm just going to get a little bit less clouds. Let's do that. Okay, so see how that is blending, right? And scene relighting. So scene relighting lights the original image with the color from the sky, right? So it's making the whole thing look like it's nighttime. See that? And I'm darkening this guy here, which I don't want to do. Let's just undo the settings I had before. And now we have a night sky, right? Totally different. Neat, right? And if it's too dark, you can always do a little bit more develop to just brighten it a little bit if you want. And I find it's just a tiny bit magenta now. Something like so. Right? So you literally, we turn day into night. Right? No, I don't see any neon puke. It's the only time it's acceptable. Which is that? Oh, halos or sky replacement? I don't see any neon puke. We can make neon on here, right? If you want to do something funky. I had a video that I did using the neon and glow tool where you can draw a shape, right? You can draw a shape. So let's do that. Okay, so if we use the draw tool, let's say we want to draw, I like triangles, right? So I'm going to draw a triangle, and I'm just going to go, let's just say it goes around some of these floaty things. So I'm using the shift click to make a triangle, okay? And then we can just change the color. And do something different, okay? Or we could do something in the sky, but just for fun. Like so. Oh, my green sky. Ah, the green sky. Well, that's aurora. Have you not seen the aurora, Holly? This aurora borealis. Yeah. So we actually had some strong aurora here a few days ago, and I did not get out and photograph it. I wish I had. It was actually even having some purple. So we do get aurora here, and this is the time of year to see it, right? I'm not crazy about the neon, but it's kind of fun if you want to play with something, right? What I would do is I would try and darken it towards the edge so it was brighter in the middle. So what I might do is do a mask. Let's do a linear gradient. So I kind of, so it fades out like this. See how it fades? Like so. Wasn't the best linear gradient, but you get the idea. Let's try it again. Let me try that again. Fill, and let's try another linear gradient. So I'm going to start it here. I find that it kind of doesn't want to do a second one. See that? It doesn't want to do a second one. I'm going to clear it. Oh, it doesn't want to do anything. There we go. Okay, so let's try that again. There we go. Let's try something a little bit stronger. Wait for the mask to disappear. There we go. So now it just fades out towards the bottom. You need to get out more, Holly. Come up here. We're going to have a night workshop eventually when we get our act together. We're going to have a night workshop. And I know you don't travel that much, but that would be fun for you to come in and stay up in Alberta and see some northern lights. How cool would that be? Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, so I already did that one. And this is another one that I got a while back. And this one was from... who was this one from? Russell Adams. And I thought this one was a really cool image because how many versions of water are in this image, right? Like even the fog is water, right? So what do I want to do with this image? The first thing I want to do is develop raw. It's a raw file. Okay. Did I do some edits on this one? No. Okay. So we're going to start with develop raw, obviously. And let's see about camera profile. So I'm not sure what camera this was taken with, but these are all adding a lot more contrast, which is okay. Yeah, Adobe standard, not so much. So I'm going to add a little more contrast. And now look at the exposure, okay? We don't have the shift double click option in Luminar, but you have the histogram, okay? So I'm going to bring that up. And then I'm going to pay attention to the curve, right? You can see there are a little bit of things on the edge of the graph here, clipping. So if I look at that with the excuse me. If I look at that with the clipping warnings on, that's the J key again. You can see that it's literally the lights in the sky. And I'm not worried about the sky because I'm actually going to crop it out. So I'm going to go a little more with the whites because it brightens up the whole image, right? And the clipping on the lights is fine, okay? Because they're a light source. That's fine. So I'm not worried about that at all. But I do want a little more black because it will bring out the color, okay? And I want to warm it up a little bit because the color is very blue. And these are fall colors, so we should see some more fall color-ish, right? And this fog is blue. So we can use the eyedropper, and let's see if we can make the fog white. Okay, look at that. Okay, big difference. Now we've got lots of these red tones. Okay, maybe a little bit less. Let me do it again. Let's pick another spot. Let's try this spot. So depending on where you put the eyedropper, you'll get a different color. Okay. That's definitely better than the original. Okay, so look at how blue it is. We got fall colors. I'm going to dial it down just a little bit. Like so. And I think it's got a fair bit of noise. I'm not sure what ISO this one is taken at. If I look at it in Lightroom, I can tell that. Oh, 100. Okay, so interesting. Oh, 6-second exposure. Okay, so 6-second exposure, which is what's causing the waterfall to give us all that lovely mist. Okay, so I'm going to do chromatic aberration and defringe. And let's see what lens correction does. Sometimes I use distortion correction and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I prefer the image without that correction. Okay. I do want to crop it as well. So let's say we're done with camera raw. Okay. I'm still not happy with the color, but I do want to crop it. And I want to see what Luminar thinks is a good crop using composition AI. Okay, so it usually comes in the right amount, but it doesn't do the placement necessarily. And I find that it doesn't correct tilt. So I'm going to hit horizon alignment. You see how it corrected the tilt a little bit. And I want to crop off that sky. And I'm debating cropping off this road on the left. Oops. So I either want more on the right in this red thing here, or less on the right. So actually I don't mind that. And there's not a lot happening sort of down in this bottom here. So I don't mind the crop that Luminar's done at all. But if we want to keep this part on the right with all these red flower or red leaves, right? And be careful of cropping the edge of that fence. I think I want to go about there. So I've got the fence. I still feel like it's crooked. Let's try something like that. Give it a minute to adjust. Oh, did I not get the sky? Apparently I didn't get the sky. I moved it up too much. There we go. Okay, I still think it's crooked. I'm trying to look at the tree here because this tree would grow fairly straight, and these verticals here. So there's a lot of stuff tricking the program. Now I've lost the top of that tree. I don't know if I can get the top of the tree and not get the sky. Let's see. Pretty close. I can fill these in with the erase tool or the clone tool. Okay, so we've cropped and fixed the color a little bit. Okay. Now I see there's a question. Is it better to use a new develop or go to edit develop? I'm not sure what you mean, Robert. So if you want to mask anything you do with the develop tool, you need to use it after you use something else, right? If you want to go back to the beginning and go on the raw file, you have to go back to edit and go down here. Okay. So we've already done raw, right? Now let's say I do something else. Okay, so I'm going to do a different tool. Let's just do this accent AI. Okay, so in this case, it actually does a really nice job. So I'm going to bring that up. Right, and now let's say I want to use develop to only on a part of things. So if I use it a second time, okay, I can now mask it. Okay, so see how there's masking here. So if I bring the highlights down and darken it, but I only want that applying in certain places, and I can just brush it in. Okay, so let's say I want to darken this area and just the top a little bit. Okay, and let's say I want to darken this a little bit. So I'm just selectively darkening. Okay. Let's say I want to do, it's basically I'm creating like a custom vignette here by painting in with a develop tool. Okay, and you cannot mask it when you're using it as a raw. Okay. You can only mask it the second time you apply it. Okay. So you'll notice that my strength is at 29 now. So every time I paint and I click again, right, it's adding another 29%. Okay. So if I keep going, it'll eventually give me 100%. So you can do a really custom sort of dodge and burn. And this is how I recommend people doing dodge and burn instead of the dodge and burn tool. Okay. You have to apply it two different times, once for darkening or burning and once for lightening, but it gives you more control and it doesn't shift the color. Okay. You can also do things like, lower the contrast, change the color. You can do so much more doing it this way. So see how now once I've got it painted in, I can go even farther. Okay. And now if we look at edits, I've got develop, raw, enhance, and then develop again. I hope that answers your question. Use the dam as your level. Yes and no, because we're taking the picture is taken at an angle to the dam. If we level the top part, it's going to be crooked. See you Friday, Holly. Okay, so if I try and level the dam based on the top, okay, you mean this line here? I still don't think it's going to be straight, but let's see that. it tells me to go further. Yeah, I don't think so. I liked it better the other way. Let's give it a second here again. I'm getting sniffly again. Getting sniffly again, Rob. I'm trying to get that tree more or less straight. There we go. Okay, so now we can go and we can deal with these little bits at the top. And I think just clone will work well here. So I'm just going to go at 100% and get a small brush. Actually, I'm going to go more like 50%. I find that I just want to like darken these bits at the top here. And I don't necessarily want to clone at 100% because if I do that, often it looks noticeable, right? And I could probably use the erase tool to do this as well. But you see how I'm just like darkening those little bright spots, right? So again, changing my angle of cloning, just filling in all these little spots at 50%. So I'm just kind of taking the eye away from the spots. That's all. So it looks more natural when you clone at a lower percent. Great. All right. Now let's go into landscape tool because the landscape tool has our foliage enhancer, but it enhances green. Okay. So you see there's not a lot of green in here, okay, but there is a lot of gold. So if we want more of that orange to come out, we can use golden hour. We can also do foliage and make it more orange. So anything that is green, we can shift it a little more orange. We can also do that with the color tool, which I'm going to do next. Okay, so that does a good job here. Dehaze, okay, also will give you more contrast and sort of bring out that fog, bringing the stuff out of the fog a little bit more. So that actually does a nice job. So I kind of like to do this with my sliders. Right. Now notice that the golden hour is making those lights on the bridge super yellow, right? Almost too yellow. So I'm going to erase at 50% just across the middle here. Okay. Maybe one more because I don't want the lights to go super yellow. Just the rest of the image to have some golden. Okay. So the masking tools are really important. Yeah, you probably have to log in. Make sure you're logged in, Holly, because you have an account with us. So it's a login that you would use to access any of the courses on our website. Use that. Make sure you're logged in. Okay, now let's do color, right? So similar to the color tool in Lightroom, we have these adjustments here, okay? So I want to make the oranges and the reds less red. So I want to go more towards the yellow side. So we're going to go this way and this way because I find that these trees look red, not orange. And there are red trees, but I don't think these are the red tree kind of trees. Okay. We can even shift the yellows to more orange as well. Don't mind that. And the greens as well. So we're literally shifting the tones, okay, to taste. And let me just see about yellow. I have an idea here with yellow. If we darken yellow or brighten yellow. No, yellow is not what I want. Let's try orange. Aha. See how that brings those orange trees out? But once again, it's affecting those lights. So once again, I'm going to do an erase. I don't want the lights affected. Okay. See how it's affecting the oranges? Makes it more fall color. Did I do a vignette yet? No, I did not. Let's do a vignette. I do a vignette on almost everything. So remember, bring the amount and the feather down. Now we can see the edge of it because we cropped. And let's reposition it. Something like that. Like so. We can even brighten the middle part. How's our before and after? Okay. Can you see all of the things? So I'm solving problems like the little white bits at the top, solving problems like cropping the sky out, solving the problem of color, right? And the color being a little bit off. We can also look at a LUT to fix color, right? Because I want it to be feeling really fall-ish. Nope, not toning. Really fall-ish. And I know that there's these orange and teal ones, right? I have orange and teal. Where are we? Teal and orange. Woo, that's interesting. Very interesting. Now, these are at an intense level, obviously. Let me dial this down because we can apply it at a lower amount. A bit less contrast. Do you like what that's doing? It's bringing these orange leaves out, so I think that's kind of cool. So teal and orange number 3 was kind of nice. The other ones that I liked are the ones that we had with, where are they? Oh, Land of Freedom. I'm on them. These ones have lots of orange as well, and these are the ones that they had out raising money for Ukraine. Oh, I kind of like that one. Dnipro. I'm sure that I'm murdering the pronunciation on these. Oh, I like this one. Okay, so once again, it's affecting the light a whole lot. Let me see if one of the others is better. I do a lot of back and forth, check it, go back, see if there's just another one that's better. I'm really looking for that orange. Now, I like what this is doing, but again, I don't want it to be so dark, but I like the effect. And let's soften it a bit. Once again, I should have just copied this so it's not affecting these lights so much. Should have just copied this mask because I'm using it over and over again. See what that's doing to the outer part of the image? I think that's really nice, actually. And I think I would be done with this. Maybe add like a mystical. Oh, we could try color harmony. This is another one that's great. And I have it up in my favorites because I use this one a lot. And it really applies well to contrasting colors. So this tool here, this color contrast, wherever you land on the spectrum, okay, so yellow and orange, it will increase the contrast and brightness there and darken the opposite. Okay, so if we go to green or blue, so now we can see, especially up in this range, the oranges are darkening. Okay, so if we want, we can increase the contrast in the orange a little bit. We can give the image a bit more warmth. And these sliders are cool as well. So warm increases the warmth of everything that is warm, and blue makes blue things more blue or less blue. So it's kind of a weird slider, hard to explain. Makes blue things more blue. Right? Once again, it's affecting those lights, which, I'm not crazy about. But look at it, actually fixes it if I go this way. So I have an idea. So I'm going to, highlights. We could bring the highlights. No, it doesn't do as well. I'm going to add this mask. So I copied it. I'm going to paste it. So see, now it's kind of blue around there. So I'm just going to fix that a little bit. because it's gone into the fog too much. So I want to get in there just around the lights. Okay. So I want the fog to stay nice and warm, but not the lights. And yes, I stick out my tongue when I'm editing. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one again because I'm going to close this tool and open it again. And I'm going to go the opposite way. So I'm cooling down the warms. Okay, so warm colors, cooling it down. So look what it did to the lights. I don't like the yellow in the lights. Okay, so I'm going to paste in that mask and then invert it. Okay, so it's only there. And I just need to refine it a bit again. Okay, so I don't want it on the fog. And I should be zooming in and doing this more closely, right? I just want it on the lights. I would do a better job. Okay, what's it doing? So yellow, see the lights are yellow? So I'm minimizing that with this slider. I did a good job. Another one that's great is under the Pro Tools is Super Contrast, right? This one does a great job of affecting contrast in the highlights, shadows, and you can darken the highlights this way. So we can affect the fog. Okay, see how that yellow comes out again? Let's keep it minimal. Okay. What we really need is some mid-tone contrast here. It's not doing as well as I thought. I'm looking to boost. There we go. I'm looking to boost the rest of the image a little bit because it's gone a little dark. So let's boost that. So let's see a before and after. Right? Now, of course, we could go completely another direction with this one and make it cool and more like a nighttime scene. But I love the reflections here and the warmth around here in the oranges. Right? You got it right. Awesome. It's the same time, Neo. So if it started at 9 p.m. for you today, then the webinar is the same time. Yep, same time. Did you get it, Robert? Rob says that he replied to your support email yesterday, and it likely has to do with you logging in first. So you have to log into our website, meaning that if you don't know your password or your login, just do a password reset and then log into DPM. Okay. So it's not logging into Zoom or anything else. It's logging into our website. So that was kind of a fun one. So we've done some neat, fun edits today. Couple in there, and I think maybe we've done a good job today for water. The only other one I wanted to do was one of Danelle's with the surfer, and I'm going to put this one into birds as well. So I'm going to move him into birds, right? And Kelly's. Oh, actually, Kelly's is really cool. Let me do Kelly's because she sent me this one quite a while ago. I don't know if she's here today. And I think what happened is she sent me this with her edits already applied. Because if I look at the before, actually, let me see if I've done anything in here. Can't remember if I edited this one or not. Oh, looks like I did. I pasted. I copied and pasted. Okay, so there's the original. And there's where we're at now. So I copied and pasted from another editing session. But I want to go back here and reset this one because the cropping, actually, I want to copy this one. So before I reset it, I'm going to copy the crop only because I want to keep the cropping. Okay. Then I'm going to reset it and just paste in, which is the crop. So I want to get rid of those trees that were around the outside, I noticed something when I zoomed in here, that's too far, is that the forest itself is blurry. Right? So the background or the forest is blurry, but the reflection is sharp. So what happened is you focused on the reflection. So I'm going to do something really cool with this one. Let's just do auto tone here real quickly. And that actually did a pretty decent job. I'll just do a couple of refinements. I always get rid of this vibrance. Let's do a little edge vignette. Okay, so I'm going to show you a really quick little trick here, because the reflection is the part that we actually want people to look at because it's sharp. So I'm going to rotate the image. We can also flip it. Okay, so I'm using Command and square bracket to rotate, or you can go in here and go Photo, Flip, Vertical. Okay, so flip versus rotate. Either way, you get a different sort of orientation, right? I kind of like this one. Okay, so now the reflection is on top. So I'm going to do a graduated filter to darken this part of the image. So the actual part of the image that is the original, I'm darkening quite a bit. And then I'm going to lighten the top part. Do one more graduated filter. So I'm going to add some clarity and some texture and some contrast. Now, let's see what it looks like. It's kind of messing with the mind, right? So there's the original, plus it was upside down. I'm going to do a full recreate here. Let's do full reset. And of course, it's flipped upside down. Okay. No, I rotated. Okay, so that's the original. And that's where I'm at now. If we zoom in, right, this part is out of focus. This part is in focus, but it's actually the reflection. See that? The reflection is the sharp part. Do 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 do. Fun, right? So this was kind of a neat image, Kelly. I hope she sees this one later, because I noticed that it was out of focus when I was kind of going through all the images, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, right? So reflections are fun. Neil, reflections are great. Yeah, I love reflections. We could do a whole thing on just reflections, because we did water today, and a lot of these water images have some really, really fun reflections. Okay, I think we're actually going to stop there for today. I just want to remind everybody what our topic is for next week. Let's see, where is our topic next week, I believe, is people, is it not? I think it's people. So people. Okay, so next week, that is what we are looking for. People photos. Please submit using the submission form. Rob, if you could please provide a link for that. And I just want to mention again that two things. We have our webinar coming up on Friday, and also oops, I lost my Luminar there. Also, our sale is starting on Friday, so if you want to get in on that, make sure that you are one of our subscribers. And also, the Black Friday sale for Skylum is currently going on also. So if you want to pick up something from Skylum, now is the time to do so, because they've got Luminar on sale if you upgrade to the Pro membership. If you have a current membership, a current subscription, so not X, if you have a current pro subscription and you want to get in on the special, I believe, don't quote me on this, you have to cancel your membership and then sign up again with the new one, and I believe it will work. And if you use our discount code, I believe that will work as well. Even if you are applying the sale price, I believe you could still use our discount code, which is DPM 10. I'm just looking for where to find it. Can't find it. Do you have our discount code, Rob? DPM 10, somewhere in here. Oh, maybe it's in here. No. I know where it is. I know where it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so there's our discount code. The drama, yes. Submit your photos here. Robert's put a link, and if you're watching the replay, it is in the description area below the video, and also the link to the Black Friday sale for Skylum, for Luminar, and there is our discount code to get an additional 10% off. So that is my understanding that the code will work. You just have to apply it when you get to your checkout. So to just remind everybody, I've lost my thing again. People, next week. So send us your people photos. That's what we're going to be doing next week. And the week after that is iconic locations. I've already gotten some great ones for that. So keep your images coming for both of these topics. And we'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our American viewers. Take care.